You know how sometimes you walk into a room and forget why you came in? Well, ancient Egyptians apparently walked into the desert and somehow remembered the entire layout of planet Earth. Because the Great Pyramid of Giza isn't just some giant limestone brag, it's sitting almost perfectly at the center of all Earth's landmasses. Like, the center, not the center of Egypt, not the center of Africa, the center of everywhere that isn't ocean. That's like throwing a dart blindfolded and hitting the exact middle of a world map, on your first try, using a rock. And while you're busy Googling coincidence, geographers are having small existential crises. Because when you map the continents accurately, no funny Mercator business, thank you. Giza lands within 0.5% of the geographic centroid of Earth's exposed land. That's not close. That's, did they have Google Earth, levels of suspicious. So either this was a divine accident, or the ancient builders had a planetary understanding we still can't quite explain, all without GPS, satellites, or, boats that could cross an ocean. But sure, maybe they just liked the view. There's fun coincidences, like running into your ex at a dentist's office. And then there's this. The Great Pyramid's latitude is 29.9792458 degrees north. The speed of light is 299,792,458 meters per second. I'll give you a second to blink dramatically. Yes, they match, digit for digit. You could argue it's random, or numerology, or maybe your calculator is possessed, but either way, it's weird. Now, obviously the metric system didn't exist in ancient Egypt. That was invented in France, land of wine, cheese, and revolutionary beheadings. So maybe this is just a happy accident, like finding a French fry that looks like Abraham Lincoln. But when your giant triangle also happens to align with the most fundamental constant in the universe, you start to wonder if the universe is leaving hints in stone. Either the pyramid builders were time-traveling physicists, or we're being trolled across millennia. You probably never think about the longest line of land you could walk without falling into the ocean. That's fine. You have a life. But if you did, you'd discover that the longest land-based meridian and parallel on Earth, lines running vertically and horizontally across the globe, both pass shockingly close to Giza. Which means, if you wanted to build something visible from the sky and have it line up with the most land-based directions possible, you would pick Giza. That's not just prime real estate, that's planetary grid real estate. It's like building your house at the intersection of Main Street and Infinity Avenue. Not only would aliens find it, they might leave you a Yelp review. So was this for decoration? Or were they building a node in a global system? Something that helped travelers, or something else? Because if you're building a tomb, you don't usually care if it lines up with 13,000 kilometers of terrain. Unless, of course, your tomb is also a giant geometric, hey look here sign. To find the center of the Earth's landmass today, you need satellites, math, probably 3 unpaid interns and a weekend. Now imagine doing it without any of that. No globe, no sextant, no accurate maps, just you, your sandstone, and a really persistent measuring tape. Yet here we are, with a structure from the 26th century BCE that lands exactly where a planet-wide geographer would put it. A geographer from, say, the 20th century. So either ancient Egyptians had a secret Google Maps, or maybe they were part of something way bigger than just pyramids and cat gods. Something global, something coordinated. Something that probably came with its own user manual written in star alignments and granite blocks. Imagine this. You're lost in the desert. There's no cell signal, no landmarks, just sand, regret, and heat stroke. And then you spot it. A giant triangular structure pointing to literally everything. See, some researchers think the Great Pyramid wasn't just a flex in stone masonry. It might have been a geodetic marker, basically a prehistoric GPS pin dropped on Earth. Why? Because it lines up with celestial bodies, cardinal directions, and apparently the laws of physics. Oh, and it's also ridiculously level. The base varies by less than an inch. Let's repeat that. A structure made of 2.3 million blocks, built on desert rock, is flatter than your IKEA table. If this was just for a pharaoh's ego, it's a bit much, no? Maybe, just maybe, it was part of a global navigation system. Something ancient astronomers, travelers, or seafarers could use to orient themselves. Think of it as the original Find My iPhone, except it's Find My Hemisphere. You know what else is weird? Pyramids, temples, and stone circles all over the world just happen to line up. Like draw a line from Teotihuacan in Mexico to Stonehenge, keep going, and somehow you'll run through Angkor Wat, Mohenjo-Daro, and, surprise, Giza. What are the odds? The odds are you kidding me? Some call it ley lines. Others say it's Earth energy grids. Skeptics call it cherry-picking lines until something matches, which fair. But you have to admit, it's a little convenient how major megalithic sites just happen to hug the same global bands. Either ancient civilizations had group chats we don't know about, or they were all tapping into the same mysterious set of coordinates, handed down from somewhere? Or, plot twist, maybe the planet itself was the blueprint. And these structures were Earth's acupuncture needles, each one stuck in with purpose and cosmic flair. At some point, your brain starts wheezing from all the math and you go, okay, maybe this is just one big cosmic coincidence. And you'd be right to ask that. Humans are really good at finding patterns, even when they don't exist. It's how we invented constellations, and conspiracy theories, and Facebook algorithms. But here's the thing, how many coincidences does it take before we say, maybe there's a pattern because there is one? We're talking about a structure whose location matches the global landmass centroid, whose latitude reflects the speed of light. That's aligned with both the stars and the planet's own lines. Built before anyone had a globe, or a boat that could survive 2 days at sea without everyone panicking and blaming Neptune. Eventually, the coincidence card wears thin, and we're left wondering, did someone know something we forgot? Or are we just very committed to making rocks sound smart? So here's a thought. What if the Great Pyramid isn't the whole system? What if it's just the last visible piece of something bigger, like finding a weird USB port sticking out of a tree and realizing it's not the tree that's techie, it's the whole forest? Maybe Giza was one node in a lost global network, a system of temples, markers, monuments, all designed to align with the planet, the stars, and maybe even each other. Not for religious rituals, not for pharaohs, but for something practical, navigational, positional, like an ancient version of GPS. If GPS also came with riddles and a really intimidating user interface made of stone. The rest? Buried, eroded, swallowed by jungle, war, or someone's backyard chicken coop. It's not about pyramids. It's about the idea that somebody once mapped the world and didn't tell us how. Now, before you grab your crystal and start chanting at the moon, let's be clear. Mainstream archaeologists have explanations. Boring ones, practical ones. Ones that won't get you invited to a History Channel documentary hosted by a man with electrified hair. They'll say, Giza was chosen because it has stable bedrock. The Nile made moving big stones a little less awful. And it's close to Memphis, the capital at the time, not the Elvis one. All fair, all valid. But also, none of that explains why the pyramid is basically cosplaying as a geodetic satellite. The tension here isn't between facts and fiction. It's between engineering excellence and mathematical absurdity. Egyptologists can account for the tools, the ramps, the labor, but not the placement that casually mocks GPS-era precision. You have to wonder, if the Egyptians didn't know what they were doing on a global scale, why does it look like they did? Let's step back. Maybe this isn't about aliens, Atlanteans, or interdimensional architects. Maybe it's about knowledge. The kind that doesn't survive well on papyrus, but does survive if you carve it into something the size of a mountain and dare the universe to erode it. What if the Great Pyramid isn't just a tomb or temple, but a message? Not a message like, "Hi, we're ancient Egypt, please like and subscribe," but a message encoded in form, placement, and geometry, saying we knew things. We measured the world, and we left a breadcrumb trail in stone, because nothing says, "Please take us seriously," like aligning your megastructure with both celestial north and the longest uninterrupted meridian line on Earth. It's less of a monument and more of a giant stone whisper, "Look closer, we had reasons." Let's be honest, you can barely get Google Maps to stop rerouting you through the nearest swamp. Meanwhile, 4,500 years ago, someone looked at a spinning rock in space and said, "This point, right here, let's build the most mathematically obnoxious thing we can and align it with everything." And they did. They aligned it with true north to within 1/15 of a degree, made it shockingly level, gave it proportions tied to pi, and dropped it smack in the middle of Earth's landmasses. Either they were architectural savants with a caffeine problem and a telescope made from stars, or there's a level of science we've seriously underrated in ancient cultures. Maybe their primitive tools were just different. Maybe they measured the world with stars, shadows, and something we stopped looking for once we got calculators. Let's go full tinfoil for a second. What if the pyramid wasn't a religious monument, or a tomb, or a monument to labor? What if it was a pin on a planet-sized map? Not to tell the world we were here, but to tell someone, or something, this is where you land. Or this is where it begins. Or this is where you align the rest of the grid. Because when you realize that its placement, proportions, and even latitude tie into planetary constants, you start to wonder if it's a coordinate for navigation, or worse, for activation. And if so, what happens when all the right places align? Asking for a friend.